What's up, and welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. Um, I am back, and I'm still a little stuffy. So, if I sound a little funny, I'm sorry. It's been a little over a week. I'm still battling this bullshit sickness. Um, it's been since last Wednesday, so I apologize for last week's episode. I was a little out of it, a little spacey. Um, that's what being all medicated up and feeling like crap will do to you. But I wanted to make sure I got the podcast out no matter what, and you know, give a little preview of the fights and everything else I went over. So I appreciate you for watching if you saw it. And I also apologize because I know I was a little spaced out, but it's all good. At least I got it done, and yeah, I am back now, feeling better. Hopefully not so spacey and unfortunately still nasally, so that sucks. It's all good. Um Before we get going too far, uh just wanted to remind everybody, if you're here, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when I'm going live. Just gotta keep getting that out there and keep getting likes and people subscribing. Oh, and share it too. If you know somebody that likes combat sports or MMA and likes watching the fights and stuff like that, share the video, throw it out there, give me some new viewers. Um, if you like the show, hopefully they will too. So yeah, do that if you can. I'd appreciate it. Um, but anyway, let's see. Now I have to get this to turn off. I don't know. I had that set up, but for some reason, great. I love it when I start like this. Awesome. um, what did I do? It, oh, I know what I did wrong. Here we go. Yeah, so much for being spacey, huh? And I turned off other stuff. That's cool. Um, there we go. Anyway, so there's my reminder. Made it a little longer because I'm forgetting stuff. But hopefully nobody else out there is sick, and if you are sick, I hope you get over it quickly. It seems to hang around for way too long, and yeah, it sucks, and I'm tired of it. So I'm hoping that after maybe a couple more days, hopefully by the end of this weekend coming up, I am fully past all this. I still have a bit of a cough and obviously a stuffy nose. So yeah, I'm tired of all of it. It needs to go away. Um, Annoying, very annoying. So, but yeah, besides that, hopefully everyone else is doing all right. We got some good fights coming up this weekend. Big pay-per-view, last pay-per-view of the year for the UFC. It's not as big as it should have been. There's a lot of fights that were supposed to have happened on this pay-per-view, and they're not happening. So there's been cancellations and changes and stuff like that. But for the most part, still a pretty good card. When there's decent names in the prelims and stuff, it's you can't complain too much. So it is the last UFC pay per view of the year, and then there's gonna be one more fight night after this, which will be the weekend after, and and then there's gonna be like a month off of UFC. So I'll be covering whatever else is out there, and I got to look at the schedule and see what's going on for the rest of combat sports and MMA and see what kind of stuff is on the schedule, what kind of events are going to be happening. But if there's not a whole lot, I guess I'm going to have to get creative and come up with some other things to possibly, cover or talk about. Maybe do just some different kind of stuff. Um, for content. I'm gonna keep the podcast every Thursday for that month, no matter what. I'll come up with something and entertain you guys. So please tune in, check it out, see what's going on. So I do have some pretty cool announcements coming up. If you follow me on social media, you probably saw. Actually, let's just get right into this. This is part of my combat news section. So here we go. I'll start off with this on Saturday. This Saturday for the UFC 282 pay per view, I'm going to be watching it live. and I'll be doing a special edition of the podcast. So if you're not doing anything Saturday, come check it out. It'll be 8 p.m. Arizona time for anybody not in Arizona. You know, you'll have to do the math there to figure out whatever time zone you're in. Basically, if the main card for the UFC is playing and you're watching it, you can also turn on this podcast and you'll be seeing me reacting to the fights. Obviously not showing the fights on the podcast because that's not allowed, but you're gonna, I'm gonna be talking about all the fights and breaking stuff down as we go. And yeah, I'm gonna be joined by some guys from the Rumble podcast, which is another podcast I'm a part of. They are gonna join me. From what it sounds like, everybody's gonna be joining, but we'll see what happens. People got other plans and things like that, so it's no big deal. Whoever joins, I'll have at least 2 or 3 of the guys, if not all of them, on with me, and we'll just be talking about the fights and reactions and then just some other bullshit stuff. Try to make you laugh a little bit. We're always getting into something. You'll get a little taste of what the Rumble podcast is about while we're on it, and yeah, maybe it'll get you over and interested in watching the Rumble podcast every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Arizona time on YouTube, on the Rumble podcast YouTube channel. So check that out. Get a little preview of what happens during that podcast, and maybe it'll get you to want to go check it out and see what we do every week. But either way, tune in Saturday for the UFC 282 main card, and we'll be watching it here and hopefully entertaining you in the process. So yeah, check it out, and it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. This is something that other people do: fight companions, watch parties, watch alongs, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. There's not too many names for doing something like this, but for me, I'm just kind of calling it a watch party podcast, because we're going to be podcasting while we watch the fights. And I'm going to be doing it with guys from another podcast. It's a little collaboration. So it's just basically a watch party podcast. That's kind of going to be my name for it. And it's not something I'm going to do all the time, obviously, because I usually have people at the house watching fights with me and, having drinks and a good time and stuff. But whenever possible, like, there's not a lot of people around. A lot of people are out of town and have other plans because it's close to the holidays. So for this last pay-per-view, I wanted to do something. I couldn't just sit. I could just sit by myself and watch it, but I had this idea, so I put it together, and I'm hoping that it goes off fairly well and we have some fun and get some viewers. So check it out, 8 p.m. Saturday on this channel that you normally catch my podcast on. Hopefully you guys all tune in. I'd appreciate it. Moving on with some news. So there's a big story going on in the UFC right now. It's kind of in the background. Kinda. I mean, people have been talking about it, but it's and obviously on social media and other news sites, anywhere on the internet, you can see it, but it's not one of those things that's like out in the forefront, constantly getting updates. It's one of those things that's there, but just there. So, like it says here, the biggest scandal in UFC history. That's yet to be seen. I mean, they've had things happen in the past. It all has to do with betting on fights and possible fight fixing. This is what's being alleged, or just someone having insights into fights that's causing a big change in action on fights for betting. So James Krause is at the center of all this because he has a podcast, a Discord, and a betting service where he actually takes over people's accounts and bets for them, or he gives out betting advice for the fights. And he's also a coach and a corner man for a lot of the fighters in the UFC. He's an ex-UFC fighter himself. If you were around, like, maybe, I don't know, 3 years ago, he was kind of hot in the UFC. 2 years ago, he just retired, maybe like a year and a half ago, maybe. But he's involved with a lot of big fighters. One sort, or I should say one notable name would be Brendan Moreno, who's ex flyweight champion twice or once, twice, whatever. Either way, and the interesting about that is, along with the so basically, let me finish this off. Basically, what happened is Derek Minner was fighting. I don't remember who he was fighting. He had a pre-existing leg injury, or knee injury. I guess James Krause is in his corner. He knew about this, and suddenly there's action on the fight. Big change of action in the betting for the fight on the opposite side. So, when it's pretty lopsided and it's obvious, then there's going to be red flags risen, and people are going to investigate. So pretty much what's happened from that is that now James Krause is not allowed to even be at a UFC event. He's been banned from the organization in general. He can't be a cornerman, he can't be a coach, or he can, but not for anybody in the UFC, which is what this is about. MMA fighters sticking with James Krause will face a ban amid gambling probes. So he's not allowed to gamble. Nobody in a corner or involved with any of the fighters are allowed to gamble on the fights that they're involved in, or in the fights at all, I don't think now. There's just a lot of stuff coming down from all of this because it's just way too suspicious. They're still investigating, but as of right now, he's banned from the UFC from cornering, coaching, or anything of the sort. So any fighter that's still affiliated with him in any of those manners is also banned from fighting in the UFC. So Brendan Moreno, who has a fight coming up in the near future against Davison Figueiredo for a championship belt, cannot fight in that fight if he wants to keep James Krause as his coach. Or his, obviously he can't be his cornerman, but he can still be his coach, but not if Brendan wants to actually fight in the UFC. So some kind of crazy shit, man. Krause seemed like he had a legit thing going. He was going on podcasts talking about how much money he's making and how lucrative it kind of was for him to be doing what he was doing with all the betting stuff. But I think he kind of fucked up. Well, he really fucked up if this is what's happening. But you take one of his fighters and have something like this happen, pretty suspicious. And unfortunately, some big things can happen from this. He can get jail time if he really gets caught. It's like the Pete Rose thing. He got got in a lot of trouble for betting. People have been put in jail before for fixing fights and stuff like that. So it's kind of like insider trading stuff, insider information. If and you tell everybody, hey, I know this thing, make sure you're betting on this person because I guarantee he's gonna win. And then the guy goes in with a bum knee, throws some leg kicks, and it fucks his knee up even more, or his leg up even more, and all of a sudden he can't keep fighting. Other guy gets the win by TKO because of an injury. There you go. Of course you're gonna win that bet, right? So I don't know. It's kind of some fucked up shit, and it sucks because it puts the UFC in a bad light, puts the sport in a bad light. And yeah, there's bans getting handed out left and right now for all this. So there's more to come, obviously, on this, but it's a story that I was interested in. I heard a lot about, and yeah, it's a shame. Unfortunately, James Krause kind of has a lot of heat behind him because before I was even hearing about this, there was some kind of weird rumor. He used to coach Megan Anderson, and I guess they had a falling out. She starts talking shit on Twitter, accusing him of he's married, and she's accusing him of having an affair with Laura Sanko because people on Twitter were accusing her of being like pretty much like a scorned, woman from like an ex-boyfriend or an ex-fuck buddy or whatever. So yeah, this dude's got heat on him right now, and he needs to just chill. Pretty much his Discord, his website, and everything else has been deleted, probably because he knows what's happening and he's got a lot of heat on him. So I don't know. check out the news on all that if you're interested. It's an interesting story to me because however this unravels, it could be a lot of changes and a lot of crazy stuff happening for the UFC especially. But it's an MMA problem in general, from what it sounds to me. But it's being focused on the UFC right now because it's an ex-UFC fighter, a current UFC coach, with the fighter that was involved, who, by the way, they did release him. They cut him from the UFC. Derek Minner, he's done. He's banned from the UFC. He'll never fight there again because of all this. So that's a damn shame too. But moving on. Another big story, TJ Dillashaw retiring from the UFC. Suddenly, by the way, which that was a surprise to me because of all the shit that he was talking about, how, he was hurt going into the Aljamain Sterling fight. And he said that if he wasn't hurt, he would have, wiped the floor with Sterling and all this other shit. But, he's been plagued with injuries, and then the steroid, dropping dirty with USADA, the steroid use, the 2-year suspension, all that shit. Once again, here he is. So here's the thing. When it came out, I saw a tweet that said, TJ Dillashaw retiring from the UFC. So I go check it out. I'm like, all right, this is weird because I don't see this anywhere else. So I wait. Then I see it pop up on, I believe, Facebook. And I'm like, you know what? That's a credible source I usually use. So I'll go ahead and repost that. Then on Instagram or Twitter again, I don't know, I see somebody saying all of the rumors about TJ retiring are untrue. He's just stepping away for a while he recovers from his injuries. But then within like 20 minutes, it's all over the place, everywhere. ESPN even sends out a notification saying he retired, everything like that. So the truth is he's retired. But here's the catch. Dirty shit too. I think he's pulling a Conor McGregor, which, if you know what's happening with Conor right now, and if you've been paying attention to any of that, he looks jacked as fuck right now. And there's a reason for that, and that's because, understandably, he's coming off of a broken leg. So that's a pretty substantial injury, right? He's been out for a while. I'm pretty sure he's juicing. I'm pretty sure he's on steroids. Even Rogan talked about it on a podcast of, his that he had with another guy that we're talking about the whole Liver King scandal. I don't know if you heard of any of that, but I don't know. I get in these tangents of things that I hear about, and all these podcasts start talking about it, and there it is. It's in the forefront of my news, I guess. So, but anyway, everyone's talking about how Conor's huge and ripped and massive, and so he's been, and it's been confirmed that he's out of the USADA testing pool right now. Which, if you don't know, you have to be in the USADA testing pool. You have to tell them, they have an app, and you have to tell them where you are 24/7. You have to update it 24/7. So if anything changes, you have to update it and let them know where you're going, what times you're going to be there, all that shit, because they have to test you. And if you do not update where you are and you miss them coming to test you, that's basically like dropping dirty, because they're just assuming you're running from the test. So that's how serious that is. So Conor basically dropped out of the USADA testing pool because he knew he'd be out for a while because of his broken leg. This is what people that retire do as well. Or you can stay in the pool, get tested, and that way if you're ready to come back, no matter what, you can come back at the drop of a dime if you're in the testing pool still. But if you're out, then you have to get back into the testing pool for 6 months and have 6 months of testing before you can fight again. Not always true, though. They made an exception for Brock Lesnar. Juice head of them all, pretty much, in my opinion, and from the things I've heard. But to save UFC 200, was it 200? No, UFC, not 200. I don't remember which one it was. anyway, they wanted him to jump in on a fight to kind of save the card. So they basically tested him twice, and then we're like, you're good. Didn't even know the results yet. So there's big shit going on about that. But that was way back in the day. And then now with Conor, it's kind of like he dropped out of the testing pool just so that he can do steroids. I mean, because it does help with healing from the broken leg and the injuries and stuff. But I mean, he's putting it in everybody's face. Like Rogan said, I guarantee that the cup he pisses in would melt. That's how hot his piss is right now. It's just pretty funny. Conor, of course, came back and talked shit too, but it's a whole thing. But yeah, it's pretty funny. So the allegations are that TJ's not really retiring. He's just fake retiring so that he can drop out of the testing pool. And you know, he got caught for EPO, which is like blood doping, which is kind of what Lance Armstrong was doing. So that's what he got caught for. So that's what TJ got caught for when he dropped down to 125 to fight Henry Cejudo. Still lost. I guess he had trouble with the weight cut, so he was trying to, you know, do the EPO and keep his activity level high and his, you know, everything. I don't know. It's just too much shit. But either way, so everybody's allegations now are that he dropped out of the testing pool and he's retired so that he can do all the steroids he wants, get back to good health, drop the steroids, and then get back into the testing pool and then unretire, which isn't unheard of, but you know, it is what it is. It's kind of a snaky thing to do, and while he is called the snake, that's kind of what people, Conor put that little what's it called, moniker or something like that on him, is that he's a snake. So anyway, yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't know. I think the UFC is going to wind up having to do something about this kind of activity because it's obvious and it just seems like it's happening more and more often. So as for now, TJ's retired. So good luck, TJ. You know, watch those needles, bro. There's only so much you can do before you really fuck yourself up. I hate to be that way, but you know what? He got caught once already. He's kind of a dickhead. I respect his talent for fighting, but when it comes down to it, man, I don't know. It's all kind of shitty and fishy, and I think it's kind of dirty. So yeah, good luck, TJ, man. We'll see what happens when you come back. That's about it for MMA stuff right now, but we do have some boxing going on this weekend. MMA related though, because that is, yes, you see that correctly. It's Chris Cyborg fighting Gabby Holloway in a boxing match. So this would be kind of the second professional boxing match that Chris Cyborg is having. You know, she's flirted with it in the past. She was talking about fighting Clarissa Shields forever, in MMA and in boxing, but you know, she maybe not fighting, she was sparring with Clarissa Shields. So that was a big old thing that happened, and everybody was like talking about it and wondering if she's actually gonna you know, box for sure. But this is a legit professional fight, and as of right now, you know, she's a ginormous favorite. It's like plus 5,000 favorite. So yeah, she's got a lot to live up to, and we'll see if she actually does it and gets that win. I believe she won her last fight. It's kind of weird though. It's like one of those things where where was I going with that? It's one of those things where she it's 4 rounds, 4 2-minute rounds. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm getting distracted over here because I'm making sure stuff is good on the feed. But Yeah, 4 2-minute rounds, which her last, I guess her last fight was 8 2-minute rounds. So I don't know what the difference is. I'm not even sure where she's boxing. I don't even know. I mean, it says, I don't know if that BLK Prime. I mean, I don't really know. All I know is also on this same card. So it's kind of legit because on the same card, Terrence Crawford is fighting David Avin. Oh man, David Ava. I can't say his Avanesian. Yeah. Anyway, Terrence Crawford is a pretty well-known boxer, and he's pretty damn good from what I understand. I don't follow boxing a ton, but I do know the name, and I've heard a lot about him, and everyone talks about how good he is. So, same card, you know, she's fighting on the undercard of Terrence Crawford, which is pretty big, I guess. So, it's pretty cool. I'll be watching to see what goes down with those fights. More boxing. Teofimo Lopez is fighting, oh man, what's this dude's first name? Sandor Martin. I'm not sure who he is, but I've heard of Teofimo. I listened to a interview with him earlier, and man, he's got a crazy story. I guess he pretty much this past year like died twice and was revived and brought back. One of them was fighting related because I guess he had some kind of issue while he was weight cutting, and yeah, pretty much like went into his fight not in good health, and then because he just pushed himself and got through and fought the way he was, whatever issues he was having health wise, yeah, he wound up like pretty much dying on a table, and they revived him and whatever. But then he was pretty cryptic about the first time. He said before that even he had died one other time, and it sounded like he said it was just him being stupid. So it sounds like maybe he was doing something foul, but he didn't want to talk about it. So either way, he's 25 years old. He's done a lot in boxing. He's a name, Teofimo Lopez. I'm sure if you know boxing, you know who he is. But this is a top-ranked fight. Top-ranked boxing on ESPN. This is Saturday. So yeah, I'm not sure who else is on the card. I just wanted to highlight this one because there's a lot of boxing this weekend. So with the Chris Cyborg thing, it made sense to bring it up. And like I say, I cover combat sports as well as MMA. So boxing's a big thing too, and I do like boxing. I just don't like it like I like MMA. So, and I'm not big into watching all the boxing matches because it's hard to watch just boxing when you watch MMA. At least for me it is. So and then, which I didn't even know, and this one's kind of weird, Manny Pacquiao's fighting this weekend on Saturday as well. And this is a Triller event. So Triller is known for having kind of, I don't know, off the wall fights, kind of, I guess some people say circus fights. But anyway, regardless of any of that, Manny Pacquiao fighting DK Wu or Yu. I don't even know who that guy is either. It says, legendary Manny Pacquiao versus martial artist DK or Yu. I'm not sure how to say that, but that tells you a lot. Martial artist, so I don't know what he does or any of that, but there it is. Another boxing match I didn't know anything about. I just heard about it like a couple days ago. I was like, Manny Pacquiao's fighting this weekend? That's odd. Haven't heard much about it, so I had to look into it, and this is what I found. So, and I heard about it again today. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's Manny Pacquiao, so I guess I'll bring it up. Yeah, so that about wraps it up for that. But first MMA, there's two big events this weekend. Tomorrow night, Friday night, is the big Bellator 289 event. So this is going to be with Rufian Stotts versus Danny Sabatello. And these dudes have beef big time. These guys are just at each other's throats at all times. Mad shit talking constantly. Like, these fools do not give it up. They will not give it up. They're getting into fights when they see each other, like shoving matches. They were on Ariel Helwani's podcast like a few months back, and they got into it. Helwani had to get in the middle. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And then they pretty much say they can't really be around each other because they know that shit's gonna go down. So it should be a pretty exciting fight. Or are they talking a lot of shit and they're gonna shit the bed in the cage? Because that's what happens sometimes, man. They talk a lot of shit and then it's like a boring ass fight. And I'm hoping that's not how it goes, but that's how things go sometimes when they want to talk this much shit. So but either way, other fight, Patchy Mix versus Magomedov. So let's get over to the fight card here. So there's Stotts versus Sabatello, 18-1 versus 13-1. Pretty good records there. You know, they both only suffered one loss. Everything else is pretty much even. Apparently, you know, the big thing that they got into the fight over on Helwani's show is the fact that Sabatello says that Rufion Stotts says that Sabatello's couldn't take him down if he tried, and they were like, let's do this right here. And that's when they got up and started kind of going at it. So it sounds like the wrestling's being challenged, but according to Sabatello, he just wants to kick the shit out of Stotts and knock him the fuck out. So let's see if he lives up to his word. Also, so that is a Bantamweight World Grand Prix fight for the Bantamweight belt. But then there is also a Women's Flyweight World Championship. Liz Carmouche is an ex-UFC fighter, and she is fighting Juliana Velasquez. They fought once before, and they actually, Liz Carmouche won. That was actually Velasquez's last fight. Let's see. Where's I going here? Yeah, so that's her only loss is to Carmouche. So this is kind of a rematch here. Seems to me like Carmouche is the favorite for sure. She's the champ at the moment, and we'll see if Velasquez can get that redemption on that loss and gain that belt. Here's another big fight, Patchy Mix versus Magomedov. Magomedov is one of those guys, you know, kind of sounds like Khabib Nurmagomedov, but, you know, all these guys are from the same area, kind of Dagestani, Russian type dudes. Magomedov, that's kind of so funny saying his name, it's like saying it twice. But Patchy Mix is on the come up. He's a pretty exciting fighter in Bellator. He got a good striker versus a good grappler, and yeah, we'll see how that fight goes down. Rest of the card, not too bad. While this fight, I mean, Elton Rosa versus Anthony Adams. Don't know much about him. Rosa's 7-0, so we'll see if he keeps his undefeated record. That's about it for Bellator. So catch that tomorrow. Let's see if we can find out. Showtime. So Bellator 289 on Showtime. At least it tells you. I'm always giving Bellator shit because you don't ever know. You don't ever know where the hell their fights are being shown or what time. So looks like main card is 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So that'll be 7 o'clock here in Arizona. So yeah, there you go. You got some fights to watch tomorrow, some MMA fights, and then you can watch UFC 282 on Saturday, or any of those other boxing matches as well. But I'll be watching UFC for sure. Speaking of UFC 282, that's what we got going on next. Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev. That's gonna be for the light heavyweight championship, because if you remember, Yuri Prochazka was the champ. He vacated the belt because he got injured, pretty nasty shoulder injury, tore a bunch of ligaments, and he was supposed to be fighting Glover Teixeira, which Glover's the guy that beat Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight belt, and then Yuri beat Glover. So this is kind of a weird little thing here. So now Jan is fighting Magomed Ankalaev for the belt because they wanted Glover to fight Ankalaev, and he said no because that's way too much of a different kind of fight. It's more of a grappling heavy fight. He's fought Jan before, so he said he would fight Jan but not Magomed. And yeah, the UFC wasn't having that, so Glover gracefully bowed out of that. He didn't really have a choice, but you know, and they made Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev. So there you go. Here's the rest of the card. We got Cameron Simon versus Steven Kozlow. Finishes Salvador versus Daniel Da Silva, who Daniel Da Silva, I've seen him fight before. He's pretty good. TJ Brown versus Eric Silva. There's a lot of Silvas. Look at this. That's hilarious. And they're not both from Brazil, so that's even more funny. TJ Brown, haven't seen or heard much of his, but Eric Silva is pretty good. I've seen him fight a few times. But yeah, they don't even have odds for these fights. These are the early prelims, that's why. I'm starting from all the way at the bottom. But this was why too, because Billy Quarantillo versus Alexander Hernandez. This should be a pretty good fight. They actually have odds on this one. Billy Q is actually favored to win. He's been a name that's been coming up here and there. He hasn't fought in a while, I don't think. But yeah, he's one of those up-and-comers that people got their eye on because he's definitely got some talent. Alex Hernandez has been what was I gonna say? Damn, I got distracted there. Alex Hernandez, another good young fighter. I don't know a ton about him. But moving on to the prelims, we got Chris Curtis versus Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley, I don't know if you remember during I think like beginning of COVID time, I think something like that. Sometime in the COVID era when they were just doing fights at the Apex only with absolutely nobody in there. Joaquin Buckley went viral with this crazy he basically threw a kick and his opponent caught the kick, was throwing punches at him, and instead of just trying to kick his foot loose or something like that, he actually did this flying spinning kick straight to his opponent's head, knocked him out. It went viral. It was pretty crazy. Had people I think Lil Wayne or Drake or both of them tweeting about it. It was nuts. So that's Joaquin Buckley. So he's a pretty exciting fighter. I mean, he hasn't done anything to that magnitude since then, but he's still a good fighter. Fighting Chris Curtis. That's a pretty even matchup there. Looks like Buckley's a favorite. So Edmund Shabazian versus Dolce Lungiambula. Man, that's tough. I don't know who that guy is really. So looks like he's the underdog. Shabazian's a name. He's been around for a while. Came up in the same camp as Ronda Rousey did. He was kind of, Ronda's protege type. Yeah. But he hasn't really done a ton for himself. He's kind of got a win-lose type thing going on. So still a fun fighter to watch though. This is going to be good. Jairzinho Rosenstruck versus Chris Daukaus. Now Chris Daukaus he's got a brother that fights as well in a lower weight class. I believe was on the last fight card, and his brother's Kyle Daukaus, and he actually lost. So Chris is also on coming off a loss, if I remember correctly. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Had this ready because I wanted to double check. I just want to see if I'm right about this. I believe Chris is coming off a loss. Yes, coming off 2 losses. Derek Lewis and Curtis Blades. So he needs a win pretty badly here because, losing 3 in a row in the UFC is not a good thing. A lot of people get cut after 2, usually on average 3 losses in a row. And I mean, that's kind of a shame because he was on a 5-fight win streak before he lost to Derek Lewis. in December of last year, and then he lost to Curtis Blades earlier this year in March. So yeah, he needs that win. So we'll see. But he's fighting Jairzinho Rosenstruck, which that's a tough ass opponent, man. He's a fucking beast, but he's also coming off of 2 losses in a row. So damn. He's a heavy hitter though. He beat Alistair Overeem back in December 2019, but the notable thing about that is he busted Alistair's lip open, like in a bad way. It was pretty nasty, like wide open busted lip, kind of like Robbie Lawler during the Rory McDonald fight, if you remember that. So either way, both these guys are looking for a win, so this should be a pretty good fight, because I think they're both going to be out there ready to get the finish and looking to get that win, and that usually makes for a damn good fight. Then we got Raul Rosas Jr. versus Jay Perrin. Now Perrin, I don't know a ton about, but Raul Rosas Jr., if you remember, I talked about him. He is the youngest fighter to ever sign to the UFC. He's only 18 years old. He's still a senior in high school right now, which is insane. He got a win in the Dana White Contender Series and got signed. So he's making his debut, and I read some stuff on it earlier. He idolizes Robbie Lawler. He said that was one of his favorite fighters, which unfortunately he would have been fighting on the same card as Robbie Lawler for his debut, which would have been pretty damn cool, except Robbie had to bow out with an injury, which is a damn shame. So, but anyway, apparently Rosas followed Robbie through his career and idolized him. So yeah, debut, that's big pressure under the big lights. And that is, oh man, he's the main fight on the prelims, which is the last fight before going into the main card. That's a pretty serious position to be on the card. I'm hoping good things for him, man. He seems like a good fighter. Looks like he's got a lot to learn still, but he's pretty exciting in there. Kind of doing some crazy dynamic strikes and some high flying stuff. So we'll see what his opponent has for him. No odds on this, because I'm sure Perrin's not very well known, and Rosas only has 1 fight to go off of. So he did face some adversity in that fight on Dana White Contender Series. So we'll see what he's got to give under the bright lights and the big show. So good luck on that one, buddy. I am pulling for him though, so we'll see what happens. We're gonna go over this one a little bit deeper. Bryce Mitchell versus Ilya Topuria. We got another one, Darren Till versus Dricus Du Plessis, and then Santiago Ponzinibbio. He was supposed to be fighting Robbie Lawler until Robbie Lawler got hurt. So unfortunately, but at least they kept him on the card. He still gets a fight against Alex Morono. Alex Morono's a very damn good fighter. He's the favorite right now. So unfortunately, I bet Ponzinibbio was the favorite against Lawler, and now he is an underdog against Morono. So let's see if he comes out with that dub after the replacement, late notice. Big fight here. We'll go over this one. Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon. A lot of stuff going around with Paddy Pimblett right now. A lot of drama. I'll get into that a little bit here in a minute. Same with this. Got your main fight here. Main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev. Let's go ahead and start with Ilya Topuria, which, that's kind of a tongue twister. Ilya Topuria. I don't know. That's a tough name too. Anyway, as you can see, he's got some hands. Nasty ground and pound. But I don't know if he can keep up with Bryce Mitchell, who's kind of on a tear right now. And funny stuff about Bryce, man. He's a cool dude. He's a real country type guy, and he's got a real thick kind of country accent. He's from Alabama, I think. Oh, Arkansas. Arkansas. Yeah. So, yeah. But either way, he's got beef right now with Joe Rogan, of all people, because he believes that he's a flat earther. He believes the earth is flat. He went off on a tangent on a post saying he's sick and tired of Joe Rogan spreading lies and rumors about how the earth is not flat. And he said, I can't believe you're calling myself and my mother a liar. Because him and his mom believe the earth is flat. I don't know, man, where these people fucking come up with this shit. If you believe that, sure. I mean, the dude's a great fighter. I'll leave it at that. The other shit he talks about and believes in, it's tough. So, the bad part is I like him. I liked him a lot, but then he started talking a lot of real crazy shit. So, either way, he's a hell of a fighter, hell of a ground fighter. Great jiu-jitsu. He pulled off this crazy move twice called a twister and got a finish with it both times. So I think it's only like the second person to ever get a finish with a submission with a twister in the UFC. The first being I had the name in my head and I forgot. Fuck it. Either way, look it up. It's a twister. It's a tough move. It's a hard thing to get people in, and it's a crazy submission that you're definitely gonna get somebody attacked if they don't know what they're doing or how to get out of it. So there's that. And look up the Bryce Mitchell flat earth stuff. It's funny. Moving on. Dricus Du Plessis is fighting Darren Till. So Dricus is, let's see, is he the favorite? Didn't even look. He is the favorite, but just barely. Minus 180 to plus 155. But you know, he's ranked number 14. Darren Till is ranked number 10. But as you can see here, he's got some heavy hands. Looks like he's real strategic. Look at it, he's covering up and he comes back with a 1-2 straight overhand right. I mean, nice. He's got some power, and that's against Trevor Giles, I think. Yeah. So, you know, no pushover there. So that was a pretty good win for him. A lot of people are talking good stuff about Du Plessis, so we'll see what he's got for Darren Till. But Darren Till is, man, he's looking rough these days. He needs to get a win, because if not, he's looking at maybe having to find somewhere else to fight. Let me look here. He's only got 4 losses, but he's on a 2-fight losing streak. So he lost his last 2 fights. He lost. The one before that he won, and then the 2 before that he lost. So, you know, 2 losses, a win, and then 2 more losses. So if he keeps up with that, he should be getting a win here. But yeah, I mean, these are just a couple of the things he's done. Unfortunately, the second one is a Donald Cerrone. That was sad about. But either way, Darren Till's a good fighter. He's just one of those crazy cats that, I don't know, man. Outside of the cage, he's always in trouble. Inside the cage, he's just inconsistent. But he's got the talent and he's got the potential. He just hasn't put it all together. And yeah, I mean, it's a shame because he had 4 wins in a row. But his losses have been to Tyron Woodley, Jorge Masvidal, Robert Whittaker, and Derek Brunson. So that's a hell of a schedule right there. His win against Kelvin Gastelum, Stephen Thompson, Cowboy Cerrone. Yeah, so I mean, those are big names. He hasn't had an easy time of it, but he needs to get this win. So that should be a good fight. Moving on, Jared Gordon. So Jared Gordon is fighting Paddy Pimblett. So Jared Gordon has a nice little time on his hands here, some pressure, because Paddy is such a, like, so big in the public eye that, yeah, Jared Gordon is like, all right, I'm just here to maybe shut this hype train down. But let's see. I want to see what the odds are. Paddy is the favorite by a decent amount, minus 245. Jared Gordon's an underdog, plus 205. So now he is coming off a win but the 2 fights before he had a loss, and he hasn't fought too many big people. He did fight Charles Oliveira, and he lost to him, but that was way back in 2019. Other than that, Chris Fishgold, not too big of a name. Leonardo Santos is his last win. But yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, I mean, he's got hands. I'm not sure what else he's good at. Sounds like he's a good grappler and wrestler as well. But that's kind of Patty's thing. He wrestles you down and gets you in submissions. So, uh, yeah, I'm not sure how Gordon is gonna fare in this one because Patty's just got that heat behind him right now. So, let's move on to Patty. Speaking of submissions with Patty, here we go. I mean, this is quick. You know, he's got the body lock on him, throws in that choke pretty quick. This is his last fight against Jordan Levitt. Which Jordan Levitt, pretty decent opponent. Patty's just kind of been working his way up there. Everyone was kind of giving him shit because he hasn't really fought too many big names. But he's only got 3 fights in the UFC. His first fight was against Luigi Vendramini, and then he fought Rodrigo Vargas, and then he fought Jordan Levitt. So he's 3-0 in the UFC. A lot of pressure because, you know, he's got people like Drake behind him. You know, Drake bet on him, bet millions on him, won. Bought a Patty and Meatball Molly a Rolex. I talked about that before. Patty's got a big sponsorship outside of the UFC with Barstool. That's making him a pretty good bag of cash for that. And yeah, he's just big in the UK, big way overseas. So and he's become a pretty big name in the UFC. A lot of people touting him to be the next kind of Conor McGregor type. But you know, he gets hit a lot in his fights. He does have hands too, but he does get hit a lot in fights, unfortunately. So that's something that kind of works against him because, oh man, if Jared Gordon gets his hands on him, he might knock him out. But what happens with Patty is he gets hit a bunch and it kind of wakes him up and gets him going. Kind of like Forrest Griffin back in the day, or you know, other fighters like that, kind of like Nate Diaz too. You know, he gets hit a bunch, but that's just kind of wakes him up and gets him going. So Cowboy was that way too. But a lot of these guys, you know, they don't get to winning the belt a lot when you're like that. So I don't know. We'll see what Patty has to offer and if he's gonna live up to the hype and keep this train going. But who knows? He's a big name. A lot of people know him. That's one of the people that I've been asked about by people that don't even really follow fighting. They know Paddy Pimblett. So they're like, who's the crazy guy with the boy band haircut or the mop head haircut or and you know, it's pretty easy to know who that is because he's like one of the only guys that looks that way right now in the UFC. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this fight. I do want to see what Patty has. Oh, speaking of the what I was gonna say earlier when I said he's got a lot of heat around him. So he has his own podcast, and he had Dana White on the podcast, and man, they talk some mad shit about Ariel Helwani. Which, if you know anything about all that, Dana White absolutely fucking hates Ariel Helwani, mainly because of some incident back in the day where Ariel supposedly leaked some information about Brock Lesnar that the organization wasn't ready to leak, and they kicked him out of the arena and banned him from the events and took his credentials, all that shit. And then even further down the line, they tried to get him fired from all kinds of his jobs. You know, weren't happy he was with the ESPN covering the UFC and all kinds of shit. So basically Dana White's talking mad shit. But Patty was the one that started it. Paddy Pimblett talked the most shit. And I'm not even sure why. There was some mix-up. According to Helwani, there was some mix-up about getting paid for the interviews. And so Patty says that Helwani makes all kinds of money off the fighters and just uses them for revenue, basically. But I mean, that's what he does. His job is he says he's not a Patty says he's not a journalist, that he's a content creator, but technically, Hawani's a journalist. I mean, that's what he does. He reports on MMA. I mean, he's even done reporting on the NBA. He was a sideline reporter at the NBA for a while when he was on ESPN. So I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like Ariel Hawani. I don't mind the dude. I can see why people don't like him, but at the same time, I feel like he catches a lot of shit. And maybe he brings it on himself, but why is he still in the game? Like, why is he still one of the biggest people to go to for anything that has to do with MMA? You know? Or I don't know. I don't understand. If he's just a fucking peon and a piece of shit, why does he have so much of a following? Why? I don't get it. It's very odd and it's confusing. Patty was. It seemed like they were all good. Patty and Molly would come on the podcast all the time, and now, yeah, this whole mix-up thing about getting, you know, paid for the interviews and stuff is weird. So, anyway, that's the heat that I was talking about. So, you know, I'm sure that's not going to weigh anything on Patty for his fight, but you know, the kid's got a lot of things going on around him, so we'll see how that all comes out. Moving on, main event. We got Magomed Ankalaev. Not a lot of people know much about Magomed because, you know, he's been around for a bit, and you know, he's been in the UFC since 2018. So he's been around a little bit. His debut fight was against Paul Craig, which that's a pretty tough opponent, and he lost. That was his debut, but that's his only loss on his record. So he's fought Ian Cutelaba twice, Nikita Krylov, Volkan Ozdemir, Thiago Santos, and Anthony Smith was his last fight. Won all those fights. He's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fight win streak, which makes sense now why he's getting to fight for the vacant belt. And yeah, he seems to win a lot of decisions, but he's got some KOs, TKOs by punches and kicks. As you can see here, he's got some hands. That's Cutelaba right there that he just knocked out. So looks like he fought him twice in a row. In February of 2020, which he got a TKO by head kick and punches, and then in October of 2020, which is this one, against Cutelaba, and it was a KO by punches. So he's got hands, and he's got good grappling too, from what I understand, just like all the other Dagestani Russian guys. So let's see, and I believe he is also ranked. What is he ranked? 3? Is it 3 and 4? I think so. I think he's. I don't know what the hell their ranking is. Oh, hold on. I know where there you go. Yeah, 3 and 4. Jan Blachowicz is ranked number 3. Magomed Ankalaev ranked number 4. Here's the nasty front kick. Look at that. Kind of Anderson Silva type front kick. He's got some power though. Big boy, 205 light heavyweight, so you know he's gonna have something behind that. But then he's fighting oh shit, over here pushing buttons on other things I shouldn't be. Yeah, the ex-champ. He was the champ not that long ago. Like I said, Glover beat him for the belt, and then Yuri beat Glover. So now Blachowicz is looking to get his belt back. Mr. Polish Power himself, as you can see, he's got some mad power. This is against Corey Anderson, a nasty knockout. With that follow-up, damn. So Ankalaev has his hands full with that one. But I will say Blachowicz did not look like himself when he fought Glover. And I mean, not taking anything away from Glover for that fight, because he deserved to get that win, and I love seeing him get the belt at the age that he's at. But yeah, he just didn't look like himself. He came back and got the win against Alexander Rakic, though, so who's also fighting on this card, and that was a TKO. Rakic had a knee injury, so I don't remember that fight as well. I just don't remember it being um, that exciting. But Blachowicz, when he was the champ, he did beat Israel Adesanya. Um, there's another KO. Oh, and that's Dominic Reyes there that he's knocking out, and that was impressive as well. What he did to Dominic, because Dominic at the time, that was at the time he was pretty big. After fighting John Jones, and a lot of people thought he beat John Jones. So, um, but yeah, he Blachowicz beat Adesanya in a, you know, uh, Adesanya went up in weight to 205 to try to become double champ, and Blachowicz just kind of wrestled him, and yeah, kind of worked him, unfortunately. And I believe, yeah, I went to decision. So he just kind of dominated Adesanya. He was just too big for him, and Adesanya couldn't handle that, the wrestling and the grappling and the power of Blachowicz. So anyway, there you go. There's your main event. I'm looking forward to it. It's a pretty good card overall, especially with the you know, that vacant belt. You know, we're gonna get a new champ here, either a two-time champ or just a brand new fresh face champ for the light heavyweight. And then that Paddy Pimblett fight is exciting. Ponzinibbio versus Morono, that's gonna be a good fight. I see that being a banger for sure. Darren Till Duplessis, another one. Bryce Mitchell, Ilya Topuria, that should be probably a good jiu-jitsu type, grappling match. Yeah, that's a pretty good card, man. I'm excited for it. So, don't forget that I will be watching it live here on the podcast. So, obviously, I can't show any of the fights, like I said, but, I get to react in real time and react live to all the fights, which can be fun. I mean, watching people reacting is hilarious, especially with big punches and kicks and KOs and big scrambles and stuff like that. I mean, it's fun. There's a lot of times when people start yelling and screaming here at the house when we're watching the fights. So, I'm excited for it. It's going to be a cool event. I think it's going to be something good and fun, different kind of content for the podcast and for the channel. So, hopefully, if you guys are watching this, you will check it out on Saturday. Um we'll be going on. Like I said, if the main card is on, then then I will be on podcasting, and I will have guys from the Rumble podcast, like I said, joining me. So there might be up to 4 other guys on here. It gets chaotic when there's a lot of guys on. But it should be fun. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that everything runs smoothly. And uh yeah, join us, please. I think it'll be fun. If nothing else, you can always watch it later. Just come back to the channel, check out the video, and don't forget to do what I always ask you to do. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and share the video too, please. I'd appreciate it a lot. Just trying to grow the channel, trying to grow the following, and get more viewers and listeners. I always want to point to my social media because I am always on there, posting everything, reposting things, anything I hear about, any of the good juicy news or rumors, or um even fights that are happening that they're showing on social media. If you haven't seen it, I'll be posting it. It's kind of a Yeah, it's kind of a compilation of everybody else's social media, and you can just come to mine and check it out and see all of it because I'll post all of it. So, and don't forget, you can listen anywhere that you get podcasts. You can listen to the audio version of the podcast. So check that out as well. Um, and Also, I just want to give a shout out to the other podcasts I'm a part of. I said this before, kind of in a transitionary phase with all of these. Um, I mean, we're it's basically the same guys in all of them now. We've kind of compiled everything. So, what's going on, Magics? Um, I can actually see my chat. Can you believe it? uh, but yeah, I'm ready. I mean, we're ready to just kind of mesh everything into one and you know, make it into one big show and just get a bigger following and get it out there. So if you want a little taste of what we do, it's the Rumble, that bottom one in there. Magic's just going ham in the chat. um yeah, the Rumble is that's the main podcast. It's every Wednesday 8 p.m. on YouTube. We've moved everything to YouTube, enough to be dangerous. We're still keeping that going for the moment. That's on Tuesdays on YouTube. Everything will be on the Rumble Podcast YouTube channel. And yes, we're gonna get stupid, dope, fresh. Here's what I'm saying, man. We just like to fuck around, make each other laugh, and have fun. So it's gonna be a good time. Come check it out. And hopefully, yeah, jump in the chat like Magix is in there right now. I'll be watching it. If you guys got questions or you got, just something funny to say, don't be rude. We don't take any shit and don't cry about what we're talking about because we don't give a fuck. So just come in there ready to have fun and watch our reactions to the fights. Just listen in the background while you're watching the fights and, you can watch along with us. So check it out. Saturday, 8 p.m. on this channel, Going Rounds Podcast. And that's about it. That wraps it up for me. Thanks, Magics, for checking in. And thank you everybody else for checking out the show. Hopefully to see you guys here Saturday, 8 p.m. Don't forget, I will throw a couple more reminders out there on social media. Check out the promo video I did. It's on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So go check it out. I'll be throwing some more reminders in there later. That'll do it for me. Take it easy. Have a good night. Peace.